You ever have anything or everything going right at the same time? I could already hear the groaning, right? Things are just going well. I mean, you're feeling good, you're feeling healthy, and this might go on for a while. You get some momentum going, and then all of a sudden you have a weekend, or someone makes a comment to you, or you have some kind of a rapid hormonal shift, uh, or something along these lines. And then all of a sudden it's gone. So what happened? Well, that's what we're going to discuss today. So most of you know me. My name is David. Some people call me Dr. R. Um, I am pretty casual that way. And I'm the owner of ThinTech Weight Loss. It is the week right before July 4th. I think July 4th is this Friday. Many people are going away. This is a good time to talk about this subject. Many of you know that in the past, I have tried to do things to help people through holidays like this. We did a challenge a few years ago whereby if you were perfect, you got to slam a pie into my face. We called it the Shut Your Pie Hole Challenge. And it worked okay. It was sort of a sociological experiment. We did it one other time, and then I decided I didn't want to get smashed in the face with, 30 pies. It was pretty disgusting. So we stopped doing that. The point is that if we are going to be able to get through this summer, July 4th, it is a good idea to have a strategy. It's a better idea to be stable. And that is the subject of today's talk. What does real change look like? What would it be like to make a change and have it not be temporary, to have it be stable? Okay, so before I discuss that, be aware that we are still doing our promo. Our promo is called Split Rounds. This is the solution for people who are going away, who want to lose weight before they go, who want to lose weight when they come back. It is a strategy. It is a good feeling of warmth and security, knowing that you have a solution for each phase of your vacation, basically. The before phase, the after phase, and the during phase where you still get to indulge, um, but not lose all that you've lost. The language gets funny there. I was going to say not lose all that you've gained, not gain it all back. Okay. So let's talk about this idea of stability because for some people, this is only theory. It doesn't actually happen. And let's make a distinction here between temporary wins and true transformation, right? We hear that term a lot, transformation. What does that take? It's a scary word. And as I said, it's an unattainable ideal for most people. But let's identify what a temporary win is. And there's nothing wrong with temporary wins. We need them, we need to build upon them, right? But here's how you know it's temporary. If it's relying on motivation or perfect conditions. Okay. It's easy to have a win, let's say in the realm of weight loss, if you happen to go away to a spa for a week. It's much easier there because the conditions are perfect. Or if you have a wedding coming up in a month and you say, I don't care, I'm fitting into that dress. You do whatever it takes. That kind of a desperation is very highly motivating, and it can lead to a temporary win very easily. But temporary wins often fall apart when life gets messy. So the person who has a wedding coming up and who says, God damn it, I am going to fit into my dress or my tuck, and they do whatever it takes, very often, if you would see them a few weeks after the wedding, things would be really different. And that makes sense. There was no plan for the long term. There was no thought about a long term change or stability. It was all about that one focused goal. And we can do that. We can be heroic for a time. We've all done that. Uh, One of the distinctions between temporary wins and actual transformation or change is effort. Temporary wins require a lot of effort, a lot of focused attention. Whereas change, being just different in the world, doesn't take that much effort. Those of you who read my book, you know that there's a chapter in there called Identity, the Ultimate Solution. And here's the idea is that when you have a chosen identity, there's generally not a lot of strain doing the things that that identity would dictate that you do. Okay. I mean, I use the story about like a rabbi. Most rabbis who are kosher, there's not a lot of strain about avoiding the BLT. You know, it's not like, damn it, this bacon is really tormenting me. I have to have it. That generally doesn't happen. Maybe at first, but not after a while. Okay. Most mothers don't strain about taking care of their children. Now, taking care of children can be a strain. That can be an effort. But it's not like you're always in the question, am I a mother? Am I not? Do I want to be a mother today? Do I not? You've taken on that role. And so for the most part, you're going to do the things that you need to do to raise your child, God willing. Right? Some people abandon that responsibility. Let's be real. This is the world. But for the most part, if you've made that decision, if you're wearing that identity, it's not the day-to-day strain. So it's not about motivation so much. Doesn't mean it's always easy. It doesn't mean you don't have to push yourself to do certain things. I mean, you know, whether it's carpool or, you know, deal with your kid's shit or what have you. It just means that you don't have to rely on motivation. If I could give everyone a gift, I would give them the gift of no motivation. Let me be clear about that. I would give them the gift of internal alignment, right? Motivation, the very nature of it, the word, I mean, it comes with thoughts of discipline, of a conflict within you that you have to overcome, right? An internal battle that can be exhausting that you find yourself always engaged in. And we see this as much when it comes to eating and weight loss as we do in any other field. So, what would it be like to not have that battle? What I'm suggesting is the idea of giving up that fight, of giving up that battle, of just surrendering to that identity that you want to have. If your identity is the healthy person, then you don't have to rely on motivation to overcome the same thing as a person whose identity is I'm so undisciplined. I'm a hot mess. Uh, these are things we hear all the time. Jordan Belfort. Many of you saw the movie. What the hell was it called? I forgot the name of the movie. It was terrific. But Jordan, the actual Jordan Belfort, who was a guy who made $1 gazillion uh, in the stock market as a broker, I think, and his famous quote was, "The only thing between you and getting what you want is the bullshit story you're telling yourself." So, as far as a story, to the degree you have to have a story, the story is you are wearing the particular identity that you've chosen without any strain. And if you can do that, if you can take that on, then you're going to find that that internal battle can go away. Maybe not initially. Maybe trying on that new identity will be uncomfortable, just as it might be for a new mother who's still kind of fighting it and wondering if she's up to the task. Okay. So, what true change and stability and transformation looks like is not dramatic. It is kind of boring. in the sense that there's an acceptance and less back and forth. So you don't have to try as much, you just kind of do. And one of the ways that you're going to know that you've achieved this is when you stop negotiating with yourself. When you don't find yourself in those interminable battles, ultimately you can't win a battle against yourself, right? You can, by force of will, have temporary wins, but you can't have that long-term victory. You'll find that you'll bounce back faster. When you have made that change, when you've decided who you're going to be in whichever realm, you'll bounce back faster. So in other words, even the person who's accepted a certain role will sometimes transgress against it. Even a mother who has no doubt about who she is and what her job is will go out drinking with the girls. And she won't be able to do all her motherly duties at that point. Okay. Even someone who's healthy will do unhealthy things. It happens. But again, when the identity is there, you find that the bounce back is faster. So instead of screwing up for a day, you screw up for a week. It lasts longer. And again, it takes more effort to bring you back. Effort is a sign, effort is an indicator. That's how we have to look at it. Effort in the long term doesn't work as well as we think it does, because we are from a culture that really validates and deifies effort and struggle and overcoming. And yet the people who do best are the ones who are not putting forth effort, or it doesn't feel like effort to them. They're doing stuff, but it's not effort in the same way that it is to other people. So when, Aaron Judge wakes up at 6 a.m. to work out, I'm sure there are times where it does take some effort, but for the most part, no, that's what he does. That's who he is. He's the best. Pardon the baseball references, but I can't help it. I hope at this point everyone knows who Aaron Judge is. All right. There will be less obsession when this occurs. There's no reason to have the obsession of constantly being in that battle. That's part of what the obsession is, the will I or won't I. I mean, it's kind of like General Hospital back in the day with Luke and Laura. Of course, I'm aging myself right now. Most people would not use them as a reference point, but every good sitcom that involves a relationship, there's a will they or won't they factor. And so the will they or won't they factor won't be there for you. So there's no reason to obsess about it. You might still get the signals from your body tell you to eat this or whatever. You say, no, thank you. And you move on. And ultimately, what we want to have is a feeling of ease. Breathe with me. It can be very hard to have a feeling of ease these days. When was the last time you had one? A sense of no tension, floatiness. I mean, and I'm talking about being sober. A sense of being clear and grounded in who you are. When was that? It was probably before you had responsibilities. Because responsibilities come with consequences or potential consequences, right? But is it a possibility? I don't want to state categorically that it is, that you can live with a sense of ease in spite of all you are accountable for. I want to just float it out there, but I want to put it up to you, offer it in a very kind and gentle manner. Is it possible to live with a sense of ease? What would it take? It's a fun thought experiment, if nothing else. I mean, when we examine our anxieties, for the most part, some of them are real, most of them are made up. There's a story, it's about a captain of a ship, a naval vessel, I think. And there was a lot of anxiety, and on a naval vessel, you can imagine. Bunch of dudes living together. There's going to be some drama trying to do an important job. So he did this, I don't want to call it experiment. It's a study. It was more of a study. And what he did was he gathered everyone's anxieties, everyone's concerns, and he kind of listed them out. And then he did some stats with them. He evaluated them. And he categorized them. And it turned out that it was something like 96% of the concerns were things that either were going to be in the future that wouldn't necessarily happen, or things that were in the past that you couldn't do anything about. So he proved absolutely that people create their own anxieties by being future focused or being past focused. And what he encouraged his crew to do was to concentrate on those concerns that they could do something about and that were real. Don't fight the ghosts. Don't chase the ghosts. Either the future potential ones or the ones in the past. This is the Christmas story, right? The ghosts of Christmas future and Christmas past, and that's what we're dealing with. Okay, so what does lead to stability? How do you stack those wins on top of each other? First of all, you want to do exactly that. You want to validate the wins. You want to make them big. You do something, well, even if it's small, validate it as opposed to negating it. You lose 3 pounds, you celebrate it. You don't say, okay, well, I've got 50 more to go. It doesn't mean anything. It means something if you say it means something. Now, it shouldn't mean everything. You don't want to get so self-satisfied that you stop. But instead of invalidating, validate it. Make it live. And same thing with the losses, you want to do the opposite. And again, in the context of what we're talking about, losses here is we're talking about losing weight. We're not talking about failures. Okay. But that's how it should work in life also. If you do something well, we use the example of a mother. Your kid gets an A on his report card. Don't invalidate it. You contributed to that. It wasn't all you. Maybe the kid's smart and motivated. But you contributed to that, right? There's no reason to minimize your contributions. It just doesn't work. Forget about, whether it's a right or wrong thing. It's not a moral thing. It just doesn't work. It works better to stack those wins on top of each other. That's a foundation. That's what we're looking to change here. We're looking to change foundations. Okay. And the daily structure that you have for yourself shouldn't be heroic. It should be very kind of common and matter of fact. Be aware of your triggers. Okay. Be aware of food triggers. Be aware of all triggers. Whether for you that's, the stress of fighting with other people, or whether that's some associative kind of behavior, watching TV. Be aware of it. Or having to have dessert, having to finish off that meal. Let's complete that meal. We've had something savory. Now it's time to have something sweet. And we're not looking for perfection here. We want to make little micro corrections along the way. You know, they say perfection is the enemy of the good, right? People who are looking for perfection tend to invalidate themselves and then tend to do worse, like they're all or nothing. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Transgressions are part of the process, whatever process that is, because nobody has ever batted 1,000 in the history of the world. And yet we have that expectation that we're supposed to. And then, of course, we want to have faith, a belief in things not yet seen. Most of us are waiting for proof. I'll believe it when I see it. That doesn't have to be the case. You can choose belief, because belief is ultimately a choice anyway, isn't it? How many examples do you need before you say, okay, this is true? You don't have to. You can just decide without any evidence. I so envy those people who have faith, even though sometimes they're, they go off and they're conspiracy theorists. They have that ability to believe. And I probably should not judge what they believe, but I do sometimes. Okay. So the practical takeaways here. What can we do? Let's narrow it down. Let's funnel it into the realm of weight loss specifically. Eat before you're starving. Right? That's a pretty simple one. You don't want to get into a situation where you're starving, because you have to eat something at that point, and then it's easy to rationalize. And then it's easy to have that battle with yourself. We're trying to avoid that internal conflict. So if you eat before you're starving, it's easier to do. Plan your next 3 meals. In other words, you don't have to plan meals for a week. You can if you want. Some people love ripping out their spreadsheet and planning everything. Most people don't. But if you plan your next 3 meals, at least then you'll have some kind of a guide. Right? One 15-minute walk is better than a workout that you're going to skip. It's better than an elaborate workout that you're going to skip. Well, I heard a story about a bodybuilder, and it might have been Schwarzenegger. And someone went up to him and said, "What's your secret?" And he said, "I've been doing this every day for 50 years." It wasn't always heroic effort. It was certainly, when you're Schwarzenegger, he was known for working out, really hard, but it wasn't always like that, but it was always done. It was the little drops that are so much more important than those big, huge, occasional efforts. And at the end of the week, reflect. Like, look at what you've done and acknowledge yourself for it. And that, again, will help make it real. That's what we're looking to do. We're looking to make the wins real and to learn lessons from the failures. Okay, so please understand this. Stability doesn't come from gritting your teeth. It doesn't come from doing more. It comes from building a strong foundation. Another thing I talk about in my book, we want to be able to change our environment, to alter our environment to suit what it is we're after. And the example I give is somebody who burns down their house by smoking in their bed. What this person inevitably does once they're safe is says, okay, I will never smoke in bed anymore. And then 3 weeks later, they are. The better thing for that person to do, instead of making that big declaration, is to never bring cigarettes into the house. Because then it's less of an issue. Then the environment is supporting them. Then they don't have to struggle with a choice. If the cigarettes are in the car, now, could they run out and get it? Of course. But at that point, they might be sober enough to think, okay, I made the effort to come out to the car. I'm going to smoke it in the car. That's where an environment can support you. And that's part of building a foundation. That and knowing who you are, accepting that role fully without rebelling against it, without living as a hostage with a gun against your head. You have to do this. You cannot do that. No. You get to choose, but when you choose a role, not just a temporary behavior. And you're never as bad as your worst moments. Many of you need to hear that. All right, good. So that's going to be it for today. I want everyone to have a terrific holiday weekend. I will be here next Monday. I will not be here this Thursday. Be aware of that. I don't know that that's such an issue for most people because a lot of people are gone anyway. Don't forget about this promotion that we are doing. You get to save money by having a great solution called a split round. We split up our detox. We do some before we go away. We stabilize while we're away. And then we do some after. It's a wonderful way to go about it. It gives such a sense of security for people. They always love this. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and give us a call, okay? All right. Have a great day.